Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on, good question, March 25th, 2025 at approximately 9 p.m. PST. Now, I've made my life journey to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I use in my own day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide virtually every decision I make by. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into it, we have Storm in the background making absolutely certain technology runs as well as we can expect. You can expect what you'd like. But for me, technology does not always cooperate. As a matter of fact, frankly, it seldom does. Okay, so Storm's back in the back making sure everything goes properly. He is also our primary moderator who manages to catch the problem children before they become problem children. Now, for those of you that are coming in with the idea of, hey, I want my 15 seconds of fame or notoriety, so I'm going to change my name and I'm going to come in and create a problem. Storm is very adept at finding you before you even get that far. So do yourself a favor and don't bother. Okay, because this chat room is designed to be safe for everyone. Okay, now if you do happen to get ousted, you'll still be able to hear. You'll still be able to gain the information. What you won't be able to do is interact. Now we also have LA Moon in the room. She is our secondary moderator. She's the one that manages to keep the conversation going if required. Also keeps a real close eye on my health, as we saw again just the other day. I don't always register when sugar levels are a little screwy. I don't have a tracking method here. I watch my blood pressure and I let the sugar do what it will, because the doctors can't figure it out anyway with me. Now, we also have, looks like we got Chad in the room. And Chad, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Chad is one of our other moderators, but he's usually got such a heavy schedule going on, he doesn't manage to get in here as much. Now, today we are looking at the importance of family unity. Okay, now the first thing we got to realize is family is not always bloodline. Now, you've heard the term blood is thicker than water. It absolutely is. Now, do your own research your own way. I've bled enough to know it's thicker than water. And if your blood isn't thicker than water, I suggest you get to a doctor right away, because you might be having a problem. Now remember, bloodline family is a matter of birth. Now, yes, it's absolutely something you set up before you get to being in utero. But whether you get along on this planet with your bloodline family, that's up to you and the other person. Remember, it doesn't matter what kind of communication is going on. I have never, in well over 100,000 clients, I've never seen a variation where communication has not been a 50-50 problem. Now, sometimes bloodline family thinks they are the ones that are supposed to be in control, especially if they happen to be older than you. Although I've seen some younger ones do the same thing. So again, we go back to that first issue. You've got to be true to you first. Family unit, the reality of it is, when we are talking about family, there is no saying that goes, no man is an island unto themselves. Meaning, we all require social interaction. Now, as it turns out, my family, which is the people I've chosen to connect with, not necessarily bloodline, although some of them are. Okay, my family is spread out across North America. Okay, now I do have contacts in other parts of the world, but when we look at family, it's absolutely imperative, if there is any way of putting the negative past to rest, it's absolutely imperative you do so. I will tell you, if you don't, you get faced with the same thing I ended up being faced with years ago. If you don't patch together, when bloodline finally passes, you're going to be going looking in all likelihood at the aspect of, oh, dang it, I didn't repair the damage and now I can't. Now understand something. You cannot repair damage of another person. They've got to let the anger go. But there is something to be said about family connections. Okay, when you feel connected, there is something that goes missing very quickly if you don't actually have that connection. Now, I've been fighting with a whole lot of that. Okay, myself, and some of you really have. I was talking to somebody today who just found out that their father is getting ready to pass. And what did this gentleman and his brother do? They went to the father and went, look, we're just taking a look at your estate. And we're just going to split it evenly down the middle and be done with it. We're not having a fight over it. We're not having a discussion over it. Well, here's the discussion. We just had it. We're splitting it even. Okay. The fact of the matter is, I have seen so many families, so many solid relationships get torn apart by the influx of money. But it's not the money's fault. It is the world in which we live. We have been taught that greed and self-satisfaction and immediate satisfaction is the be-all and end-all. I'm telling you, this band works backwards. Okay, so I absolutely encourage you, if you're at odds with your family, okay, I absolutely encourage you to do two things. Forgive them for their part and forgive yourself for your part, enough that you can move forward. Now understand, I am talking about forgiving them. I am not talking about forgetting. Now, if you have tried this multiple times and you keep coming up with the same outcome, well, we go back to that definition of insanity. Insanity being repeatedly doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Sometimes family does not mesh. And that's when you've got to look at it and go, okay, you do not ever disown bloodline family. Just don't do it. Okay, simply uttering those words create a devastation that you really cannot compensate for. And poetically mistaken, you are in with the goal today. Welcome on board. Glad you could join us. No matter how bad a fight you get into with your family, and I'm referring to specifically bloodline. Okay, no matter how bad a fight you get into, never, ever, ever tell them, you are not my brother, you are not my sister, you're not my kid. Do not do it. Okay, the ramifications of that kind of a response are absolutely phenomenally negative. Now, some of you have family that you thought were family, that were really close friends, and all of a sudden it went south. And I'm going to encourage you to do the same thing. Forgive them enough. Forgive them for their part of the conflict enough that you can move forward. And don't forget to forgive yourself as well, because I will guarantee, and there ain't many times I do that. Every communication line conflict I've ever come across has invariably been a 50-50 problem. It's never just one side. Okay. Now, sometimes some of you have gone through it and gone, oh no, I didn't do anything wrong. They pulled the stunt. I will tell you, on the surface, it looks that way. But go back before the fallout, and I would lay odds something was said that nobody recognized until it was way too late. There was a hint or something to that effect of the impending disaster. So, very important to take that negative past and put it to rest. One of the biggest things I find is that when a fallout happens, if it doesn't get patched back together, the people end up going to their grave regretting the fact it never got put back together. And I'm just encouraging you to put this to rest once and for all. Now, to be clear, I'm about to do that with my own with my own bloodline family, because there are things that have happened that I have to, for me to feel comfortable, I've got to put them on the table. But the key is stick to the logical, to the quantifiable facts of the situation. Poetically mistaken as goes, I've told siblings to just leave me alone and consider me dead. Now, I'm not going to tell you I will tell you it's not the best way of handling things. I've been tempted to do a lot blunter. Okay, I'm not going to repeat it. I'm not going to repeat it here. But let's just say it starts with the letters Foxtrot Oscar. Okay, and I've considered it very strongly with my own family. However, this is it doesn't often sit well. Yes, it removes the immediate stress. And, whether or not they did poetically, that is up to them, obviously. From your standpoint, I'm still going to suggest that you literally, when this stream ends or right away here, walk over to wherever you can find a reflective surface. Okay, look in the eyes of the lady or the guy looking back at you and literally tell them, I forgive you for everything you have done and everything you feel you may have done to hinder my personal growth and happiness. I'm telling you, this works. Don't take my word for it. Okay, give it a shot. Do your own testing. See how much it affects you. Okay, but it is imperative you put the negative past to rest. Well, you can try and put the negative rest to past too. I don't know how you'll pull that one off though. But when all is said and done, there is a certain amount of bond that doesn't go away just because you ask for it to. There is this funny little thing called legal bonding, i.e., you have to be related to the person. You get rights that people that are not related get. Don't get, rather. Philip, you are in with the silver. How you doing? Glad you could join us. The reality is, what's done is done. You cannot undo what you've done, but you can redirect the energy back into a balanced point. Okay. Now, I will tell you, the fastest way to derail emotion is logic. And the fastest way to shatter logic is emotions. Now, in case you hadn't noticed, my emotions are a little off kilter lately. Ever since my stroke. Not a fun run. But it is critical before your life comes to a close. Lauren, how are we doing? Glad you could join us. You are in with the bronze. Matter of fact, let me go and check something here. Just because of the fact I'm nosy. See, guys, I did actually get this shelf completely worked out. Still got a mess on my working counter, but what the heck. The neat part about it, when you're looking at family, is you've got to take a look at it and go, okay, where am I standing and what can be done to put the negative past to rest so that you don't feel like you're, if you will, giving in. Well, you are in with honorable mention. How you doing? Yeah, I like the color bronze too. I prefer the color of copper personally. It's a little bit more vibrant to my way of thinking. Now, where did I put that? Okay, that was just a plain dense idea. So, take that and put it aside and go to there. Remember that funny little thing of mine that works as far as the list goes? Where are we? Here, whoa. Love when that happens. Here we go. Poetically mistaken is just telling us negative rest for past. Sounds like getting a new bed. Essentially, it really is. And then she goes, I recognize the strength of the self-forgiveness mirror exercise. Not a problem. The important factor that I find, and I use that one regularly, it's one of the few things I've found that helps calm my nerves on occasion. Now, Philip is going, I had an idea. Where is my mouse in the way? Had an idea. Since true crime podcasts are so popular, do you think a podcast of true kindness stories would be popular? Chicken Soup Chicken Soup for the series was kind of like this, but books. Honestly, in my opinion, it's not a question of could it be popular, it's a question of how well it gets marketed. Where are we? Oh, I do that regularly, Woo. I find that I cook a lot in I've gotten very good at one pot dishes. Because frankly I'm lazy, so I cook it in a slow cooker or I cook it on the stove and mix up a whole pile of it. I usually get about a week's meals out of the deal in one sitting. But one of the biggest catches I find with family, if you're living under the same roof, okay, and that is pick one meal a day, just one. You got 3 in the first place, okay? Whether it is breakfast, lunch, or supper, doesn't matter, okay? Pick one meal a day where everybody shuts all electronics off, sits down at a table together. This is an old method. Works like a charm, and I really should put it to use at some point. Okay, like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm just telling you this works. Personally, I've run into a bit of a challenge. I became way too reclusive. But if you're having trouble connecting with the people in your house, this is the way to do it. Set up one day where you all get together. Okay, you all get together at the dinner table. And this is where you have positive interaction. Give everybody a chance to talk about what they went through in the day. in a positive sense, but understanding negative topics are going to rise. Negative things are going to come up, but when they do, acknowledge they've got to be discussed and commit, and then of course follow through with a discussion in the living room after dinner is cleaned up from, or after the meal is cleaned up from. This will help put things behind you, okay, and will help get people, when you take a look at it, it will help get people to see what's going on and potentially stabilize it. Where are we? Yeah, this is one of the reasons why, LA is just going. I've seen the consistency in YouTube helps tremendously in whether it's featured. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why I'm looking at going back and trying to figure out on a minimal level which day of the week to work on what topic so that we can get into a stable routine. Okay, of course, it always gets screwed up when either my energy levels tank or the computer does. And that seems to happen way too frequently. The neat little thing that we've got to remember here is the reason for repairing damage to a bloodline family is because the reach is way further than what you might think. Okay, I didn't put the relationship back together with my mom and dad before they passed, and I still, to this day, it's been 5 years since 6 years since mom passed, and I'm still beating myself black and blue, so to speak, because I didn't put it together. The reality of it is this: with bloodline, you don't get to say you're no longer my brother or you're no longer my sister, because I hate to tell you this, you are. That you're stuck with. Now, you can absolutely tell a friend, you're no longer my friend, I don't want to see you anymore. However, again, with that, because friendship is like chosen family. Yeah, my hands are going all like this. I'm thinking, am I actually French? No, I'm actually Scottish. Well, I'm Canadian, second generation, but my heritage is Scottish. But I know some friendships have come apart so badly that trying to put them back together is not going to happen. However, even in the most volatile disruption, okay, there's got to, there is a 50-50 responsibility there. Because either something was said that the other party didn't understand, or something was not said that really was required. Okay, and I will tell you, apologizing, it's a great idea if there is action backing it up. Just going, oh, I'm sorry this happened, and continuing to repeat it is where we run into a problem. Okay, and that's why it is so important to forgive yourself for your culpability in it. Now, the one danger to all of this, okay, the one danger, where are we here? Oh, there we go. Yeah, my uncle actually lived with his mother until he was 66. Then he decided to move out and live on his own. Something about the fact that she died on him. And there's something about living with a corpse that most people just don't like. Okay. But, all kidding aside, I will warn you, if you still got parents, I don't care how old you are, if you still got parents, okay, it's really important, because I will tell you from practical experience, it is likely you will regret not piecing it together and not putting a stress point behind you. Same thing happens for friendships. Okay. Unfortunately, they usually come apart with a bang. Operation Shutdown, I did not see you come in. So I do hope things are going well for you. I don't think you've been in here very long, have you? Let's see here. I'm going back up just to see what I did. We had Poetically came in gold, Philip in silver, Lauren in bronze. Well, you came in with honorable mention. Nicely done. Just had to double check that. Now, what do we got here? Don't mind me just scrolling back to the bottom. One of the things I will warn you, the reason that you look at family, there is not a soul, even the most reclusive, that does not require some interaction. And at least with bloodline, there is some sort of a physical connection that you can turn to. Now, I will tell you, sometimes that doesn't work well. Okay, you're looking at somebody whose bloodline really does not coincide with a stable connection. It's unfortunate, but it's very real. But I did stop myself from falling into a really, really dangerous pattern. Oh, there we go. Yeah. See, unfortunately, like I've got, I can relate to that all too well there, Lauren. Lauren's going, my big sister is living with my dad now, but she stays locked up in my old bedroom all the time, basically. This is something I found with both myself and both my kids. All three of us essentially live in our own rooms. Okay. What do we got here? Now, that one you give her a pat on the back for. What do we got here? I'm thinking there was part of this statement that didn't get printed, because I'm not quite certain where this fits in there, Philip. Philip's literally what he's got is literally a face-to-face conversation. Now, I don't see that. Okay, but absolutely bring me up to speed on the rest of it. As far as your sister goes there, Lauren, the fact she recognizes that she's being problematic, this is a great thing. Oh, there you go. I'm betting the mother was trying to be a friend, to your sister, which is a great idea, but unfortunately doesn't often work well. By the way, this does not mean you shouldn't get along with your sibling, with your kids. Okay. Yeah, there's no doubt. And one of the signs of actually maturing is that you do look back at what you've done in your life. Well, you do look back at what you've done in your life and go, what did I do wrong that I should have done very different? Now, here's the kicker to it all. Okay, no matter what went wrong, you cannot change the fact it happened. You just can't. you can repair the damage with concerted effort. Okay, but, and I do encourage you absolutely to reach out and see what you can do to put the past to rest. Now, I will tell you, the thing that's created the problem on my family side has been an estate. Again, a major chunk of money tied in with greed and control factors has created a problem. So I turned around and finally looked at it and went, no, I'm just going to take the financial facts that I've got quantifiable evidence for and tell the two brothers, this is what I'm looking at. Never mind explaining anything else. Just this. Okay, hopefully that will help. Oh, okay, I appreciate that, Philip. Yeah, well, here's the funny thing. I love the idea there, Philip. Philip was just telling us there's a gentleman on, there's a gentleman on YouTube that set up a situation for his own patients to say a final farewell to their family members that have passed. Well, here's the kicker. In my case, I talk to them more now than I ever did when they were alive. Okay, now, Lauren's just going, my aunt says because Sis was jealous of me, which may well be part of the problem. But, and I will tell you this, and it potentially can open a can of worms. But if you can bring it about, it may be wise to sit down and literally ask your sister if she has any idea where that conflict came from. She may not, and this is why I say it could open a can of worms. But I am a firm believer that communication, honest, straightforward, non-accusatory communication, is the key to putting the negative past to rest. The neat thing about it is when you look at the reality. Oh yeah. Well, I can tell you why. If I'll bring you up to speed on that. And the fact he figured it out is great. Okay. A face-to-face conversation. This is why it works better than texting, than over the phone, than over video. It's because when you are face-to-face, you can see and feel the energetic interchange in the energetic exchange between two people, and you get to know whether you're connecting or not. Now, this is either going to work really well or it's going to blow it right out of the ballpark and you won't ever see each other again. But at least you'll know for certain where it went south. I will tell you, Lauren, one thing I've found. Blue Cruz, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I have found that most people that come across as liking to promote, and this is going to sound really bad, really backwards, 90% of them or better have very low self-esteem and an absolute fear of making a mistake. So they push the limits and then learn to pass the buck really quick. See, when you're used to having a problem, and some families they go to loggerheads daily, okay, because the communication lines were never developed. And this is why I said one of the best ways to solving that is sit down at a table, Okay, and if you're not living, if your family is separated, if you can do it at all, but this requires both parties or all parties to have, number one, equal input, and number two, nobody points the finger. You know, and the reason for that is, again, you stick to the positive at the dinner table. Negative gets cleared up in the living room. Renee, long time no see. How you doing? Glad you could join us. I trust things are going well on your end. You know, the reality is when you've got family, okay, and like I said, a close-knit group of people can come across as a more solid family than a bloodline connection, because bloodline, you don't get options. A chosen family, you're the one making the call. Okay, you're not just going, oh, we're related, so that means we're family. No, it means you're related. Okay, as the saying goes, any male can be a father. Any female can be a mother. Well, I shouldn't say any. Non-sterile or non-complicated males can be a father. And the same with females. They can be a mother. But very few in today's world, very few males can be a dad, and very few females will become a mom, comparatively speaking. Okay, that's the thing that we've got to remember. And when you're dealing with family, even when you got kids at loggerheads with each other, as a parent, it's your job. This is one of those things you signed on for and may not have realized, but it's your job to work as the mediator to help them find a balance point so they don't take the conflict into the end of their lives. Because I will tell you, the more settled you are in your real life when you pass, the more peaceably you're going to pass. Don't take my word for it. Well, actually, I'd recommend you do take my word for it on that one. Okay, I've died frequently enough to know what it's like. You know, Lauren, you've already started to heal. Give yourself a pat on the back because you're recognizing, and at least here, and this is a start, this is what this is all about. You're clearly recognizing that you've had to isolate yourself to let her heal, but you realize that was also to let you heal. Yeah, ultimately, nobody can force healing on another. This is why the saying goes, you cannot protect somebody from themselves. You also cannot help the unwilling. This is why, and it's a bit of a sideways look, but this is why when somebody's fallen in the water, if somebody has fallen in the water and they're panicking, lifeguards, if they have to, will knock the drowning person out. Okay. You know, I am glad to hear you're proud of you, Lauren. Everybody should be. Okay. But the fact that you recognize that you're growing, keep that on the front of your forehead. Okay. Absolutely. And that's where that neat little sign, I am worth it, comes in. Okay. Because by looking in the mirror and going, I'm making progress, this is what you hang on to. Oh, sure you can. You know, I'm a firm believer you can let yourself get emotional about it. Okay, but it won't do you much good. That said, acknowledging you get emotional about it is very much what I had to do with my brothers. I don't handle being controlled well. I certainly don't handle being forced to lie. And yeah, I made the choice, but it dang near tore me in half. So, what we are looking at now is this is a very small group of people here. Holy mackerel, we're at 674. I'm not going to complain about that number. Okay, it is a slow growth curve. Oh, fantastic operation. I really appreciate that. I know it has done wonders for me. I've got mine set up, and this is why, like, I've got my sign set up right above my computer. Okay. I have often considered putting more here, but the reality is I haven't gotten around to it. The funny thing with marriage is this. They say, when people get married, they get married till death do you part, right? What people are not told is that is the death of the emotional connection, not physical body. Okay? And the hard thing for people to realize is you cannot, you can. It is not wise to stay in a toxic marriage, whether you got kids or not. Essentially, if you've got kids, it's way better to pull the plug if the marriage is toxic. Because if you don't, what you're doing is teaching your kids that a toxic relationship is better than being on your own in a healthy single life. Now, there are ways to help them get back together. The question is whether or not either they or your sister actually desire to put it back together. And in all fairness, they may not really know, none of them may really know whether they choose, whether they desire to. But it can be done. Now, of course, if you got a stubborn streak like mine, that could be problematic. But I cannot stress the importance of family unity. Okay, absolutely. If there is a conflict, you're going to have to work it out. Now, I have yet to figure out how to explain. In my case, I don't know entirely how to explain to my brothers where the problem is. Okay, but a little hard to explain to them when they don't talk to me. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm really happy for you, Lauren, that your relationship with your husband is great. This is fantastic. Okay. Now, the nice part about it is people don't have to be. Thanks very much, Ellie. I appreciate that. The thing to keep in mind is people aren't always aware, number one, that they are ready to take a little bits and pieces. Okay. One of the things that I have seen bring multiple relationships back into balance is just, and you can pass this on to the kids if you're so inclined. Get them to literally just text a message just saying good morning or good night. Nothing more, nothing less. Do it without expecting a return. Let's see. Here we are. Now, Lauren's going in fear too. She actually what my mom had going on for a long time. Mom had dementia, had dementia-like behavior. Took man for it for over 15 years. Took meds, sorry. Now, here's the thing. Even somebody with dementia, okay, and I know this from practical experience, okay, even people that have dementia, bipolar, schizophrenia, the whole thing, all of those are simply different ways of thinking, but they are workable. Okay, I was asked one day, just to put this in perspective, I was asked one day by the shrink I spent 30 years with. Okay, I spent that long with him, and he asked me one day, he goes, "Why didn't you ever get your paperwork?" I looked at him and I said, "Well, do your best not to take offense to this, but I don't actually require a piece of paper on the wall for somebody to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about." Uh-oh. You know, the important factor, it's not a question. And like I had a neighbor a while back that was always absolutely depressed. Every time I walked by her, and we weren't blood related, she was just a neighbor, as in lived in the same apartment block. Every day I saw her, I would say hello to her, never get a response. For 4 years, I never got a response. And then one day she turned around and looked at me and she smiled and said hi. Okay. I mean, it was a great feeling, but, you know, but all of the different mental methods of doing things, okay, of thinking can be worked with. Okay. You know, it just takes literally, it takes time and an understanding on the part of the people that are not, if you will, incapable at the moment of sorting through it. Okay. But it's just one method of starting to bridge the gap. At least in that way, the kids can say, I did my best. Okay. That's one of the biggest things you got to look at. Oh, come on, Lauren. They both have a personality. It may not be a good one, but they both got a personality. You know, I know my brothers and I are often at loggerheads because of the same problem. Not necessarily mental dysfunction, but we learned a different way of looking at the world. Where it comes to family, now I'm trying to figure out how to put things back together. I don't know if they are. I really don't. But for me, it boils down to sending them a letter going, here's the quantifiable facts of what I'm dealing with. Period. Now you know, you deal with that. And we'll see what happens. You know, this is something that everybody's got to start doing. But the real key to healing this kind of damage is to look in the mirror and acknowledge your own shortfalls, your own culpability. Now, I do not like the hiccups. The other thing you got to remember. Oh, Lauren, I really appreciate you the communication here. See, there's a good thing there after all. You know, I take a look at it. Like I said, what I do here for free. Okay. The funny part about it is literally what I'm doing here. I have actually been paid in excess of $2,600 an hour. Okay, which few people can afford. Okay, it really is one of these odd setups. And of course, I finally got things organized. In my case, that top shelf, as you can see, has now been set up properly. One of the things I have found is even when you're dealing with a narcissist, you look at them and go, great, I know you're not, and you just tell them before they even open their mouth, I know you're not going to take this. I know this is what I'm expecting you to do. And since I'm already expecting that, I know I can tell you this because you're going to ignore it. I'm going to tell it to you anyway. And then you figure out what to do with it. But the key is, in a case like this, you let them know this is where you're standing. Okay, this is why, quite literally, when I wrote Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams, I literally, in the book, tell you why you're not going to want to do it. Okay, I'll tell you the biggest reason why other people don't. The neat little part about it. See, again, now, here's the funny thing, and this is something that many, 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 many people deal with. My sister put me in the middle of it. She certainly set up the option. The drawback is that you bought into it. And that's the hard part to look at. I did the same thing with my own brothers. Okay. One of the things we got to deal with, okay, and I was talking to somebody the other day, so many times we look at what people cannot do, okay, and we try and fix that instead of focusing on what they can do. Like, for instance, Lauren, as you stated just a little bit ago, she taught you, your sister, in spite of all the rest of it, taught you how to deal with, well, I'm not going to say that. Okay. How to deal with problem children. Okay. So there was something good that came out of it. Now to deal with it. Okay. Now to focus on that and see what you can build. Maybe it's an idea. And by the way, this is kind of like me talking to me. I've got a brother very similar to that. Okay. Now, let me ask you this, Philip. Okay, Philip saying my people, Aspies, are supposed to do their very best to avoid cluster B personalities. Yeah, no doubt. Well, she either curses worse than a sailor or better than one. I myself do my best not to at all. Avoidance, absolutely. One of the reasons why I turned around and went, these are the kinds of people I'm going to deal with, is because by dealing with them, okay, you learn how to cope with them without the added stress. Now, I got to get into that. I'm going to save myself a whole lot of hassle of trying to go back through it. Lauren, my sincere apologies, and I'm not going to ask you to do it here, but send me your birth date, and if you've got it, time again, if you would be kind enough. I'll tell you, fighting severe depression really screws up a whole lot of things. But if you can send that to me, I will get that done. Quite frankly, it'll become top of the importance factor as soon as it arrives. But you've got my email. Drop me a... I've run into, the neat little thing about Sages. Sages are, shall we say, very methodical at pinning down a weak point. And this is one of the things that works really well for them. Okay. Funny part is, most people seem to think Sages on the whole are truth seekers. What they forget is that they tend to be their own truth seeker. As in, my truth is what holds. I take out now, I've been dealing with astrology for 40 years. Found some interesting quirks with it. One thing I found is Aries, there are 3 God signs. Aries know they're God, think they're God. May not have any foundation. Okay, but they do think they're God. Then you've got your Scorpios that know they're God. And given 1 or 2 areas of expertise, you can bet they know what they're talking about, though they likely won't tell you where they found it. And then you got Leo, who just can't figure out why you don't accept the fact they're God and get over it. And of course, then you got me, Taurus. Don't care who thinks they're God. Get out of my way. I'm doing things my way anyway. Oh yeah, Sagittarius definitely know how to push buttons. Okay, and there are a lot of ways of looking at that. But again, when you start looking at the overall picture, understand something very important, especially when we start looking at natal charts. A natal chart literally is, and the way it was described to me when I first learned, is that, oh, there we are. Literally, it is a report card from your last life. It tells you what things you came in with. Okay. Tells you what strengths, what weaknesses you started with. The neat little part about it, I like the way you spelled it there the first time, man, poetically. One of now you think, just to throw this in as a real twist, I'm born Taurian, but at 5 years old, I walked out of the morgue as a Leo. Nice little confusion point. Now we're not going to get into discussing what's legal, what's not, because I'm way out of my league on that one. Okay, but I will tell you, take all of this into consideration, no matter what is going on with family, whether it's family or really close friend, in other words, bloodline family or chosen family. Okay, but whatever it is, I will tell you, it is healable, but you gotta start the healing with yourself. Okay, so from my standpoint, I've started pulling things apart. It's amazing how much damage I found was done when I had my stroke. This is one of the reasons why I'm looking at family going, there's got to be a way to piece it back together. The hardest part of all of this, what are we down to? We are down to, holy mackerel. Are we really down to that? We are. I missed that altogether. Well, people, we are hitting 10 o'clock here. Now, I will be back again on Friday, and again, I've screwed things up, but hey, what the heck? I'll sort that out. Okay. But I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. We will be back again on Friday, and over the course of the next couple of days, I will sort that out. Absolutely, for pity's sakes, if you got an idea of what to work with, And I'm thinking by the look of this, there's a lot that can be carried on with this. Okay, so we'll debate that. Lauren, no need to apologize at all. I'm really glad you feel comfortable enough in here to open up like that. Really very happy about it. Okay, with all this said and done, we are going to bring this to a close. And I'm pretty certain what I'm going to do on Friday. But until then,